Welcome into the Fan Act Sports Channel for sports fans, by sports fans. Your boy Coach I, and we are back for more March Madness talk. We have my boy Kev, the Duke Crazy, in the house. What's going on, Kev?
What's up? What's up? Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. We're gonna talk some Sweet 16. We're gonna talk some tournament brackets, and we're gonna talk some just general basketball talk we got on tap for tonight. Got my boy Jeff, the Stat Guy. What's going on, Jeff?
Yo, what's good, Coach? Rough weekend, baby.
Yeah, man, that's what happens when you rely on Chattanooga to bust up brackets. Then we got
Anyway,
then we got my boy Coach Hess in the house, previous fanatic visitor, Iowa sports aficionado, Gonzaga basketball aficionado, and we're gonna get into all of that. I hope you guys got your brackets remembered or up so we can talk about who's left, who's still standing. I think just based on our tournament bracket challenge groups, I can say that I have the most people still standing. While we're all arguing, it seems like I know basketball the best. Nah, I'm just kidding.
It
All
is
right,
a,
so
it is a
who?
coin it is a coin flip, coach. There are
Hey,
times, especially as you get down to here, it is literally all how many
hey,
people you get to each round. So sometimes, hey, I've known people that can coin flip and get half the picks right. So
I got more than
it's a
half the
little
picks
less
right,
skill and
coaches.
more on luck.
Yeah, I totally disagree with that. If you actually watch the game, sometimes you can look at the matchups. You can look at the style of play. You can look at the senior leadership. You can look at the superstars. And I'm not saying that you can be correct all of the time, but I guarantee you nobody can coin flip and pick better than me. So that might be good for you, but not for me. So like I still have 7 of my 8 elite 8 teams in there, and that wasn't a coin flip. That's because the last 2 months of the season, me and Jeff pretty much watched basketball like nonstop. And it's like you gotta be able to see styles, see players, see coaching styles, and know who can get there. Like people picking Tennessee to go all the way. Rick Barnes has never gone all the way. So why would you do that? See, that's not a coin flip. That's knowing basketball. So I totally disagree with that. But hey, everybody's opinion is their own. Who do you still have in the champ in your final four left, Coach Hess?
I have two. If I have two of the my both my championship contender teams are still there, and that's Kansas and Gonzaga. I fell for it, and kind of a little bit of my love of Iowa a little bit kind of got me a little bit, but I didn't have them as far as some of the people I know. I had some people who I know who are huge Iowa fans had them Final Four or national championship game. I had them going after the Sweet Six. I had them going after the Sweet 16 game, so I didn't lose on too much on there, but I kind of went after. I thought Tennessee had a nice SEC tournament. I thought their section of the bracket would work well for them.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting them to struggle a little bit early. I have Arizona getting there, getting far, but the team I'm kind of happy. I think kind of worked out well is Purdue still in the final. I had them in
I
the
got
final
you.
four coming out of their bracket, and I think honestly, if you look at their run, I think they got a good shot at getting to the final four. A St. Peter's team that yes has caused a lot of headaches for a lot of us tipsters in the bracket challenges, but how are they going to handle the size down low of Purdue will be very, very interesting in the Sweet 16 game.
What about you, Kev, man? All right, so Coach Hess has Kansas. Who's your other championship team? Coach
Kansas and
Hess?
Gonzaga in the
Kansas
championship game,
Gonzaga.
but I
Okay,
also had Purdue in the Final Four as well.
I got you. Kevin, what about your championship teams and your Final Four teams?
well, I'm glad to see. Shout out KB. I know he's missing tonight, but I'm glad to see we got somebody to carry the Kansas flag throughout this thing, man. I just don't understand this at all. Bill Self is. I stand by. Bill Self is still trash. Kind of agree with Coach. Like he was talking about Purdue. Purdue's looked well. Jaden Ivey's really turned it on, especially he's looked good. He looked good the other day. I'm happy with that pick. I picked Purdue. I saw some talk later on, some statistics and stuff like that made me kind of second guess my pick with Purdue. But they're playing well. They're passing the eye test right now for me. So I still got them standing in the Final Four. I still got Duke.
Of course.
Obviously, we looked kind of questionable the other day. It made me a little nervous, but we got the dub against Tom Izzo in the fight in the Spartans there. And Duke's still looking like we definitely got a shot, and dominoes are starting to kind of fall in the right way, which is really encouraging. there are a lot of strong teams that worried me that are losing, but I think the two that I'm most worried about are still standing right in front of us. And then Houston, I've still got, much to the chagrin of Jeff, I still
Yeah.
got Houston standing. Shocker, they didn't get beat by UAB there. And then my last team that I did have in the Final Four was Auburn. They really disappointed me, man. That performance the other day really was. It kind of surprised me. As I watched them early on, I really kind of second guessed that pick. I didn't think they were going to get it all the way to the national championship game where I had them going, but I definitely thought they would be able to get past the second round. So a little disappointing there, but 3 out of 4. I'm not too unhappy at this point. I'm just kind of sitting back and enjoying it. I know I'm out of the challenge. I'm out of the running for the dub, so I'm not worried about it. I'm just gonna sit back, relax, and enjoy the show and watch Coach K go out on top.
Jeff the stat guy.
Still got 3 of
Chattanooga lover. Houston hater.
Hey, but me and you were talking earlier today, Isaiah. I don't know what it was. I mean, I'd been talking that Chattanooga Illinois game up leading into the tournament. I thought that was my upset. That was my lock. And then how funny is it being a Carolina guy? We go out and we hire Lamont Paris. So maybe I just knew something was coming. Who knows? Maybe that's where I fell in love with the Chattanooga Monks. But that was oh well. But now I got Arizona, UCLA, and Duke left in my Final Four. My fourth team was Auburn, and I shouldn't have trusted a number 2 seed in Greenville. I should have known from experience that 2 seeds fall in Greenville. So
really, Jeff, we're gonna go there, Jeff.
Hey,
I will throw shots all night long, baby.
Hey, Kev, I tried to tell him about Auburn. I said Auburn was one of the best teams in the nation when they played at home. And I said they're going to be on the road, so they won't have the advantage. Like, Auburn was deep in Greenville, but they wasn't deep enough. I just told him. I was like, I don't know what it is, man. It's like Auburn just don't play well outside of Auburn.
I will say this. I'll say this. After watching, the only time I watched Miami a couple times this year, the time I watched them the closest was obviously when they came into Cameron and beat Duke. Yeah. But ever since then, I'm a believer. They have underperformed, but that is a team. They're dangerous. They're very, very dangerous, especially at this time of year. They're athletic. They're streaky. They can get hot. They can press you all night long. They can run all night long. They can hit shots. They can drive. I mean, they're long and athletic, man. They're a scary team. I'm not at all surprised that they beat Auburn, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they made a run, especially a little bit deeper into the tournament.
The crazy thing is they didn't just beat Auburn. I mean, they drilled Auburn.
Yeah,
that thing
Auburn.
That thing got ugly.
And see, like in that situation, I didn't have Miami picked past the first round because I hadn't seen Miami play. Like when they beat Duke, I didn't get to catch that game. So I hadn't really seen them play, and I didn't really respect the ACC this year because, to be honest, they was kind of up and down. In the tournament, North Carolina Duke been balling, you know what I'm saying? Obviously Miami, but during the season, it was like, they was, like you said, they was like underperforming. So
you never knew what you were going to get with anybody.
Yeah,
and you never knew what you were going to get with anybody in the ACC.
I told Jeff before the tournament, so I said I hadn't seen Miami or USC play this year. So I just went with USC because typically they're a better basketball school. So, but I didn't know, I had Auburn winning that Sweet 16 round because, like I say, I didn't know a lot about USC or Miami, but I had Auburn going down in the Sweet 16 because, like I said, I was at the Georgia. Listen, Georgia sucked. We suck in basketball, bro. I don't care. On the road, at home, there's no way you play Georgia within 2 and win at the buzzer if you one of the best teams in the nation. I don't give a damn. And I watched that in person. I'm like, these dudes are not what everybody think they are. But as far as go ahead.
They were a coin flip. I was going to say they were a coin flip call away from winning that game. Georgia was.
If he calls it a block instead of a charge instead of a block, you win. You know what I'm saying? So hey, it's what it is. Listen, at Georgia, when it comes to basketball, we just in the moral victories, baby. Unless it's women's basketball, men's basketball, we just in the moral victories. we don't really take it serious. But my 2 championship teams is a rematch of the Pac-12. It's UCLA and Arizona, still in it. And then my other 2 Final Four teams are Gonzaga and Kansas. If I'm not mistaken. Yep. So I'm still good Final Four wise.
Wow,
Wisconsin,
a rematch Final Four, UCLA Gonzaga. That would be an interesting Final Four rematch.
it would be. Yeah. I think Gonzaga got too much for him. Plus, UCLA is one of their big guys. Like forwards just got hurt in the last game. He's a major contributor. So we're gonna see if they still have enough offense to get me to the Final Four. I got Gonzaga beating them. I mean UCLA beating them, but I don't think they can beat Gonzaga now that guy's hurt. So we'll see how that all turns out. I had Wisconsin as my only Elite Eight team that didn't make it. I think they would have won if their point guard doesn't go down, but once their point guard went down, they were struggling to even get the ball past half court.
As somebody that watched a lot of Wisconsin this year, being up in the Big Ten, they nipped some teams that they probably shouldn't have beat. I think their schedule is a little bit bloated. They caught some teams at just the right time early in the Big Ten season.
Yep.
And this was a weird Big Ten year. It was like there were games that were dropped by teams that you look and you double take and you go, really? You lost that game? So this was a really weird Big Ten year. Like for me, honestly, like I being an Iowa person, like, yeah, I kept an eye on Iowa, but I kept an eye on the Big Ten a lot. And there was a lot of performances this year that were just odd. Like they didn't Michigan State having performances like going to Iowa at one time and losing by 20. That's not,
but that's
something
where,
that normally
like, when it
happens.
comes to the tournament, though, that's why I was telling you earlier. I look at Wisconsin, and yeah, they might have caught some teams at the right time, like you said, in the regular season. But when it's tournament time, like Jeff had made a statement, he told me, and I agree, like, you don't bet against Tom Izzo in the first 2 rounds. Like, honestly, Michigan State and Duke always play good. It doesn't matter who's the superstars. Michigan State and Duke is always a game. So it's like with the site that with Wisconsin gets to the tournament, and they're a tournament team. You know, it's like the coach, just the players, like the whole environment. That's the only reason why I was like, they're going to play this slow down ball. They're going to bore people to sleep. And superstar athletes don't like that. They like to run up and down the court. So it's like, I don't know, man. I wish the point guard.
Win.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Every game's ugly. You know what I'm saying? So who's outside? I'm assuming everybody's surprised of the tournament is St. Peter's.
Yeah, definitely.
Considering it
Yeah,
destroyed like 11.2 million brackets on the ESPN bracketology thing, I think it's pretty safe to say.
Listen,
but you got to smile at that kind of story though, because it's another one of those where it kind of shows that I think the majority of people go through and they look at these small conferences and they put them at 15th, and it's like you get just the right performance, you get just the right matchup, and anything is possible. I mean,
I didn't get to see St. Peter's this year at all. So
most people don't unless you sit there and religiously watch ESPN Plus. A lot of these small conferences, they don't get the pub. They don't get the publicity. They don't get the TV hours. The only time you get to see them play is their conference tournament. And even some people, their conference tournament championship game is at like 1:00 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. So it's like, unless you can sit there and stream it, a lot of these first round matchups, like a lot of people, they go off the name brand. They go off the 1, they go off the 2. They kind of absent-mindedly go through it. And then it's like, and then you get to the tournament day, and then like, whoa, what is this? And it was like,
well, me and Jeff watch ESPN Plus a lot, but it probably was. I don't know if St. Peter's had a lot of blowouts or not, but what we do is there's so many games at the end of the year on ESPN Plus that you have to kind of pick and choose. So we watching 4 screens, and I'll say, Jeff, what game are we going to next? If St. Peter's was blowing people out, we probably wouldn't have turned to their game. We try to catch those games where, we looking for like one Tuesday we watch. I think we had like 4 overtime games. It's like that's the kind of stuff that we try to look at. But that's why I didn't pick St. Peter's over Kentucky. But I had Kentucky going out in the Sweet 16 because, like you said, you watch Big Ten. I watched the SEC. Kentucky ain't the Kentucky of old. I'm sorry. And Jeff, you had asked me if I would rank Calipari over Pitino, and I told you no. Pitino, like Calipari, underperforms with his athletes all the time, bro. Like all the time. Like me and Kev talked about it in our Duke video. Like Calipari cheats, but he just don't. He has all these athletes. He ain't never got no shooters. And what we always need, Jeff, we need shooters, baby.
We need to shoot. Hey. And I will say this, South Carolina has different standards than Kentucky. We haven't been to the Final Four since 2017. Fire the coach. Calipari hasn't been still since 2015. He's sitting pretty. Different standards around here, baby.
Calipari does have a natty though.
And this is one of those, it may be controversial, but for me, it's like, I hate when people like Kentucky has a great program. I said, no, they don't. I said, they just have a really good recruiter and they kick out 8 freshmen a year. It's like, for the longest time, I was like, I don't like the way Calipari runs it because it's such a crapshoot because it all just depends. Can all these freshmen meld together? And he's kind of evened it out. I don't think grabs 8 top 50 freshmen every year, but it was like there for the longest time.
Last year he didn't.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's kind of changed over these last few years, but it was like I hated when people said program. I said he didn't have a program. I said he just recruits. He recruits 5 or 6 freshmen, and half of them are gone. So it's like I don't really like Calipari is one of those. He's almost a little bit of a beneficial of the fact he's got a ton of athletes. He's going to win a few games just because he's got superior athletes. But when it comes to it, they would always fall in the tournament because they'd face a senior-laden team that has years of experience. They'd beat the freshmen up. Bye-bye. Yeah, you had that one year they had the magical run with Anthony Davis and they won the title. But other than that, his system at Kentucky really hasn't bear a lot of fruits that I think a lot of the Kentucky fans are for some reason think that he does.
What you gonna say, Kev?
He throws 5 dudes out there and he just says my dudes are better than your dudes and we're gonna go get a dub. And that just doesn't it might work for you 25, 30 times a season, but when it comes down to it and you're playing the best night in, night out, it doesn't work. I think the one thing I think that he and I think Coach K learned the lesson towards the end of the run, especially the last couple of years, you still need an experienced guy.
At least
you
a
can have,
couple. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can have 4 freshmen that are dudes. I mean, the 2015 national championship team comes to mind for me. Yeah, we had 4 freshmen that were great, but there were still seniors on that team that were leaders. Emil Jefferson comes to mind. I think the transfer portal, honestly, is probably going to help Calipari. As much as I don't want to say it, I agree with y'all. I don't think Calipari is that great. I think he's overrated. I think he gets a lot of hype based off of the recruiting that he does because of things. People watch YouTube and they see how great these freshmen are, and they're like, oh, well, they're all going to Kentucky, and Kentucky's going to be the best team in the country, and it just doesn't work that way. But I think the transfer portal is going to help because you're going to see more experienced guys go into places like Kentucky. But I think overall, like you said, I think Calipari is kind of overblown. And yeah, I agree. I'd take Pitino over Calipari any day because he's a better basketball coach. Calipari is like a Dabo Sweeney. They're glorified recruiters. They're hype men.
Shots at Clemson all the time.
But the hard part is he's kind of telling the truth, though.
Yeah,
hold on. So we're not gonna listen.
This is just straight.
We ain't gonna make it about football, but Coach Hess, you telling me you don't think Dabo can coach either?
I think Dabo can coach, but Dabo's one of those many. I've said this, and maybe this is the Iowa part of me, and we'll go through quick to this. If you honestly take a Nick Saban, a Dabo Sweeney, and you put them at a Minnesota or you put them at a Colorado, you aren't going to win national championships. You aren't, because the style that they play, they have to have the athletes to be able to do it. So I'm not always big on these guys that get 8, 10, 12, 5-star guys, especially in the football and things, because I think that doesn't tell me you're a great coach. It tells me you're a great recruiter and you can put good athletes. But can you go to a smaller school, recruit for a smaller school, and be able to do that? Because the first couple of years, it's going to take you a while to get those recruits in and get them to the top of your abilities. I'd like to see it, but I think sometimes that's one of those that I'd love to see.
But Coach S, I'll tell you right now, if they got a New Spring Church in Minnesota or Colorado, Dabo can go there and win because they're going to cut them paychecks.
Listen, this is what I think.
I'm not gonna spit vitriol real quick. I'll let you get there, Coach.
Yeah.
All I'll say is this: with Dabo Sweeney, I think Dabo Sweeney's greatness is that he is incredibly self-aware. He knows his limitations. He knows. I'm not like 2 or 3 years ago. He knows he's not the best football mind in the building. It's Brent Venables and it's guys like Tony Stewart. He knows his limitations. So he sits back and lets them do their thing. He's like, I'll recruit for you guys. You guys tell me what you want, and I'm going to sit back and let you guys run the program. And I think he runs he's like a GM. He runs the program. He puts a team together. But when it's on Saturdays, He ain't doing it. It ain't him.
So
It ain't him.
we're about to get to the Sweet 16, but what I would say, like back to what Coach Hess was saying about recruiting and can't coach. I think some of that's legit, but I think in football it differs because in football is such a physical sport. If you, I don't care what small school you go to, I don't care if you're the best X and those guys ever. If you don't have that guy that can athletically just go out there and dominate, you won't win a natty. Now you might win some games, but you ain't winning no natty. That's just not. You got to have the Jimmys and Joes to win a natty. I think where the elite schools coaching comes into play is when they get deep into the run and in the playoffs. Like, I mean, not for nothing. Like everybody was going on about how good Michigan was. Was Michigan that good? I think Jim Harbaugh is a good pro coach. I don't think he's a good college coach. And Jim Harbaugh can recruit, but when when it was time to come up against like Georgia, we had better Jimmys and Joes, but you still have to be able to get those Jimmys and Joes in the right place. If you watch our offensive plays against their so-called defense, we schemed our line the right way that Aiden Hutchinson didn't even make a play in the game. So it's like when you play against other elite talent, your coaching has to show. You're not winning no national championship in football if you ain't got Jimmys and Joes. I don't care who you are. Now, in basketball, you have to be a good coach. Like, you can't win a national championship. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, like you said, like Anthony Davis and crew. But Jay Wright is a good basketball coach. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Tom Izzo is a good basketball coach. You know what I'm saying? Mark Few is a good basketball coach. These are good basketball coaches. And in basketball, it's not always the biggest, fastest, strongest guy. It's, basketball IQ. It's who can shoot the best.
You found out who the great basketball coach is because the guys who do more with less.
Exactly. Like the St. Peter's coach, you can't say the dude ain't a good basketball coach. He has to be. I mean, he's in the Sweet 16 and nobody's literally I'm telling you, I don't even know if I'd ever heard of St. Peter's before the tournament. So and
sometimes it's all matchups too. Like that's I said this to a few people who I know. Everybody's like, being in Big Ten country, it's like the Big Ten's the best basketball school. How come they don't win national championships? I said, well, they're kind of a prisoner to their own kind of lore, because I think a lot of times, sometimes the big conferences, they beat each other up. They go into the conference, they go into the NCAA tournament, and they kind of downlook their first opponent usually, because usually it's a smaller school. And I think sometimes they take them lightly. And I think that's what gets them a lot. Like, look at Illinois last year. Everybody was pegging them as being a national championship, and they lost to Loyola Chicago, and everybody was shocked because this Illinois team that went on this great run to the Big Ten tournament looked absolutely dominant, and Loyola Chicago knocks them off in the second round of the tournament. So I've said it constantly. Matchups, really, you got to see what the matchups are. Like, it's like you look at it last year with Gonzaga. Like, the only team that I was terrified for Gonzaga was in the national championship game, and that was Baylor, because Baylor was the only team I thought could out physical that Gonzaga team, and they proved it in the national championship game. So it's like, it really is all down to matchups. Like, that's why I hate when we talk about conference records, like this team's done this. I said, when it comes down to it, it's team versus team, because the conference means nothing in the NCAA tournament. Completely.
That's true. That's true, man. And so we're going to go ahead and look like Kev might be having some technical difficulty. He'll get back in here in a minute, but we're going to get on to the Sweet 16. Let's talk about the game that I know the least about at this point in time, and that is Iowa State and Miami. Now, Miami showed that they can play with the big boys and do it very well. Iowa State, they played an LSU team and beat them by 5. They didn't have a coach. So, I mean, they had an assistant coach, but the coach had just got fired. And then they beat a Wisconsin team who lost their point guard in the first half. So, I think I'm going to go with Miami on this one, even though, I had Wisconsin in the Elite Eight. But I think I'm going to go with Miami on this one because I feel like Miami has the athletes to get after them. And like I think Kev had mentioned earlier, they can full court pressure. What about you, Kev? Who you going with in the Iowa? Because I know you didn't pick Iowa State and Miami to be in the Sweet 16.
I sure didn't. I don't know many people who did. Wherever those people are, shouts out to them. Kudos. I think Miami's going to take this one. I think Iowa State's – look, that's a great story. For anybody who doesn't know, I mean, Iowa State won 2 games last year. I mean, that's
crazy.
They really turned around. I know they got one kid. I think he's really their star. Forgive me, I can't remember his name, but He's a good point guard. He's hot right now. He's got a good story about being homeless and whatnot. But man, I think come tournament time, a team like Miami with the roster that they got, they're long and athletic. I think, and they can score the basketball. They're going to make you score. You have to score points to beat them. You can't score. And Iowa State, I mean, what? They got 59
They-
points in the first game and 54 in the second. They're going to have
Yep.
to score more than 65. I think if the first team to 65 wins, I think Miami's going to easily clear that. Miami is on fire. Iowa State's hot, but Miami is on fire. I think it's Miami all day long in this one.
I think Iowa State's guy is number 11. Is that right, Jeff? That's the dude we was
Yeah.
comparing to Kel, right?
Yeah, that's the dude.
So who you got, Jeff? I know you didn't have Iowa State and Miami right here. Who you
No,
got winning
so
this one?
and I kind of went back and forth with this today. Miami's athletic. They're going to get after it a little bit, but Iowa State getting a week to kind of game plan for that. I think this is different if they're played in the round of 32, but I'm taking Iowa State. Iowa State got a couple shooters. They got the number 11 who plays like a kid that me and Coach I used to coach. We all for it. So I'm going to roll with him, and let's go
All right.
Cyclones.
All right, so we got two Miamis and a Cyclones. Who you going with, Coach S?
Oh, this would be interesting because the Iowa State rivalry for some people is quite vicious. I'm going to throw out a fact, and I think isn't always talked about. The game's in Chicago, and I'll tell you
I
this:
didn't know that.
Iowa State fans will travel, so this is going to be almost a road game for Miami. And I hate going to that in NCAA tournament games because it's a neutral site. But I'm going to tell you this, at Chicago, the Iowa State fans that I'm hearing in this area, they are going to travel in droves. So the Cardinal and Gold are going to be heavy there. Can Miami handle, right off the bat, yes, they can press. Can they handle the fact they are going to be severely outnumbered in the
I'll
fan
say
support
this.
there?
I'll say
They
this,
win at
Coach
Cameron
S.
Indoor
I was
Stadium.
just about to say they went in Cameron Indoor Stadium and beat
This is
Duke.
true.
So
This is true, but that's a regular season game. You expect it. In the NCAA tournament, you don't always think about that just the
That's
tiniest
true.
bit. I'm gonna go Miami because I agree with you. I think athletically, I think they just have a little too much for Iowa State. But I think the first 10 minutes are going to be huge. If Iowa State can get the fan base, like I said, there's going to be a ton of Cardinal and Gold there. If they can get that fan base into that game, it's going to be a much, much more difficult environment. I agree with you. I think they've handled it. They've handled Cameron Indoor, but again, Cameron Indoor is a little bit of a different animal considering it's a smaller arena. But when you get a big arena and you get 10,000 Iowa State fans, and I'm going to guarantee you would be surprised there's at least 10,000 there because that's the way they travel.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. I think Miami's a better team altogether, but Iowa State, like I said, can Miami handle the first 10 minutes when Iowa State is going to be lit because the fans are going to be there? I think Miami's the better team. I think Miami will win the game. But I think it's going to be quite a game because that fan base is going to give them a little bit of a jump. So
I must
I'll
say,
say this.
Go ahead, Kel.
I was just gonna say, I think after watching Miami, especially against Auburn, I mean, I don't know. It feels kind of like a Sacramento thing with Jeff, where they're just kind of inventing this chip on their shoulder that they got for no reason. But I feel like
It could
Miami, they act like they got a little chip on their shoulder. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think that environment, which I think you're right. I think it's going to be a hostile environment. It might go to their benefit because they like the pressure. They like feeling like they're the underdog. They like feeling like they're the bad guy. I think they're enjoying playing that villain role right now. So I'm not sure if the hostile environment, which like I said, I agree with you. I think there will be a hostile environment because it is in Chicago. But I think that might help them more than it hurts them.
Man, this round of Sweet 16, just all the games. Just looking at them, I don't know if there'll be any blowouts. There could always be, but just looking at the matchups, I don't know if there'll be any blowouts in any game here. The next game is Kansas and Providence. Now, I had both of these teams picked because I'm a Big East lover, so I give nods to the Big East basketball because I still think, even though they're not, top to bottom, the best conference, I think the top of their conference still plays with any other conference all the time. But I got Kansas here because of Abaji, I think that's his name. I think he's just going to be too much for the guys at Providence, who struggled in the first round when they was playing South Dakota State, who Jeff picked to win. So I'm going to go with Kansas here because I just think their experience in the tourney, going deeper in the tournament. I know you're not a Bill Self lover, but Kev, but they've gone, deeper in the tournament than Providence. So I'm going with experience here and the star player over Providence. Who you going with, Coach S?
I'm gonna go KU on this one again. Being in Chicago, Kansas will travel. How Providence handles another fun atmosphere, especially KU will get a lot of people there. I think Kansas just got too many weapons in the long run. Providence is going to keep it close. I agree with you. I don't think there's any game in this Sweet 16 that's going to be a blowout. Not even the St. Peter's Purdue game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think that's going to be a heck of a game. But I got Kansas nipping them maybe like 4. I think it's going to be one of those last possession games.
All right, Jeff, what you talking? You rock chalk Jayhawk, or you going with the Big East, baby?
I'm going with the Friars. I'm going Providence.
Look at you. If you don't get off the upset alert.
Going with Providence.
Sometimes that makes it more fun, though.
Since the tournament started, Jeff has been upset Eddie. I'm telling you, man.
No, this is – look, I think it's going to be a good game. Both sides, I love me some guard play. Both sides have the guard play. I think Providence has the senior leadership to pull it out. I think they're gonna be in the game late, and they're gonna make the plays when it counts.
Hey, that could be. What about you, Kevo? I think I know who you're going with, but go ahead.
Everything inside me right now wants to come out and play like Jeff and give you a hot take. Kansas is gonna win this one. It's gonna be close.
Oh yeah.
But I think Kansas will win in spite of Bill Self. I think they will get it done. Coach Hess, I know you haven't met me before, but I'll say this right now. Bill Self is allergic to winning in March. He can't do it. He can't do it. So
there's a few coaches that I'd agree with that.
As much as I want to come out here and give you a hot take, and I about did, Kansas is going to get a dub. It'll be close. I think Providence, although Providence is experienced in general, they're not experienced at this point of the season.
Yeah, that's what I
So
say.
I think that's to their deficit. So I think Kansas is going to get it again close, but I think Kansas will sneak by again in spite of that guy Bill Self on the sidelines, who's a joke.
All right, over to the East. We got St. Peter's and Purdue. Like Coach S was referencing earlier, man, a lot of people, including myself and Jeff, I feel like, honestly, the way St. Peter's has been playing, and me and Jeff talked about this yesterday or the day before, if we had if we had to pick one of their games on ESPN, Plus and got to see them play, I probably would have picked them to beat Kentucky. I don't know, because just the style of basketball that they play. I just had never seen them play, and they've shown so far that they can get it done. But I like the way Purdue looked in the Big Ten championship. So even, you know what I'm saying, I feel like Purdue's gonna have a little bit too much for them, and I feel like it's gonna be a single digit win. I think it's gonna be like, one of those 4-point things where they have to foul Purdue at the end, and Purdue's gonna hit some free throws. It ended up being like a 9-point victory when it was actually like a 2-point contest. So I'm gonna go with Purdue here. What about you, Kevo?
I like the St. Peter's story. I like the way they play. I like the fact that you can drive right by their school and you'd never even know it because it's in the middle of a neighborhood and it's tiny. It looks like a high school, but I think this is your blowout. I think the run-ins here, I think this is your blowout, because the thing is with St. Peter's, they played Kentucky. All right, yeah. Kentucky's a bunch of athletes. Murray State is very similar to Kentucky in that there are a lot of athletes. Mm-hmm. They just want to play quick, fast, in a hurry. Purdue is a solid basketball team that is coached by a very high IQ basketball. Matt Payne, I like Matt Payne. He's a great coach. I think they're a well-coached team. They're going to come in with a strategy. They're not going to be – St. Peter's isn't going to come and be able to just be a bully and play bully ball and win a game like that. I think this is your blowout. I think Purdue wins it by, I would say, at least 25 at this point. It's
getting ugly.
It's going to be hefty. It's going to be hefty.
All right, Coach Hess, what you thinking on this one?
I'm one of those. I completely agree, but I think the reason that they're going to win, they can't play bully ball, is because they can't bully a team that has them just completely outsized. I mean, when you look at the size and girth of Edie and their other big forward. I mean, they have not seen anything like this, and I think that's going to give them headaches. They can shoot. If they can hit threes, they can stay in this game. But unfortunately, if you look at the statistics, Florida Gulf Coast did the same thing. Wins the first 2 rounds, matches up with Florida. They stayed in it. But this is where the 15 seeds, they just you can pull your magic out a couple of times, but that third time, that's difficult to get it going because now you're not a surprise anymore. The first 2 games, you can kind of get away with it. This third one's going to be tough. I think St. Peter's can hit enough shots they can stay in this. I don't think it's 20. I think the biggest this gets is like 10 or 12. I agree. I think St. Peter's gets it, and then a few free throws late kind of gets this. But it's just Zach Edey and the size, and then Jordan Ivey's ability to take you off the dribble, to shoot the ball. He's absolute matchup nightmare. No matter who you put on him, he's going to find a way to score. I just think there's too many dudes and too much size for St. Peter's. It's a great story, but this is the worst possible matchup they could get in this Sweet 16 round.
What about you, Jeff, the stat guy, man? You going with the upset here, loving the St. Peter's story, or you going to go with Matt Painter and the all-around B-ball team?
So as much as it hates me because I'm going against my core belief of always put the Big Ten out, I am going to give Purdue the ride, and I'm taking Purdue. Look, if this game was played tonight, I would probably pick St. Peter's. I'm a huge proponent when you get these big 14s or 15s upsets. They can normally pull off the first one. They're hot. They can win the second one. Now they're sitting at home for a week. And that week off of not playing basketball ends up being a killer. Somebody's now prepared for you. They're not sleeping on you. They know they're going to be in a dogfight. And I'm with Kevin on this. I don't even think Purdue wins big. I think Purdue wins ugly. In my mind, I got it at 25 plus. And I'm even willing to say I think Purdue's up 20 plus at halftime. I think this gets ugly off the jump, and they just end up rolling them. And that hurts me because I hate the Big Ten.
All right, on to the other game in the East. Jeff and Kevo with the blowout down there for St. Peter's. St. Peter's is nothing personal, man. I didn't say it just in case y'all want to.
I'm pulling for you. I'm sorry.
It's one of those head heart ones, right? Your head goes Purdue, your heart goes, man, come on, St. Peter's, pull it off, please.
So we got North Carolina. We got 2 blue bloods, North Carolina and UCLA. Now, I'll say I still think UCLA wins this. I actually had Baylor beating North Carolina. Something got it into North Carolina since they got into the tournament. I don't know. They've kind of figured it out or something. The injury to Hawkeyes, however you say his last name. Sorry.
Jaime Hawkeyes, yep.
Hawkeyes.
Yep.
That's a big blow. But when me and Jeff watch UCLA, they go deep. They go like 8, 9 deep. So I'm hoping that this long break, like you said, like if the game is played tonight, I might have to go with UNC. But because they have a couple of days to try to figure out who's going to take his place, who's going to step up, I'm still going to go with UCLA. I think they have too much offensive firepower for North Carolina. And I think they get the win. I don't think it's definitely not a blowout or whatever, but I don't think we're waiting to the last second or whatever, but it's still single digits. So, Jeff, what you got here, man?
I like Leaky Black from North Carolina. He might be the best on-ball defender in the tournament. I think that's been a huge proponent of North Carolina's run. They've been playing great defense. I got UCLA in my Final Four, so I got to keep rolling with them. And hopefully, even with the injury, hopefully they still have enough offense. I felt even in the Arizona game in the Pac-12 championship, they can score on anybody at will. It's can they get enough stops? And so we'll see if they can play enough defense, but I do have UCLA over North Carolina.
Kevo, what you got right here, man? I know, hey, listen, leave your heart at the house. Don't just pick against the Tar Heels because you're a Dookie. Well, who do you have in this matchup?
Yep. You kind of took the words right out of my mouth there. All right.
That's like me saying Georgia Tech gonna beat somebody in anything.
This one hurts. But I've seen North Carolina quite a few times this year. I've watched UCLA a few games, especially most recently. I think the injury to Jaime Hawkeyes hurts. I think they rely on Tiger Campbell a lot more than they would like to. I think Tiger Campbell is a bum. And I think Leaky Black and the Tar Heels, oh, man, this is going to
it's going to come out. It's going to come out.
No, I can't say it. UCLA goes home. We'll say that. UCLA goes home.
There you go, Kevo. There you go, Kevo. Don't
Rivalries
say
are
those words.
deep.
Yeah.
Rivalries run deep. Coach S, what you got, man?
I'm gonna. I think honestly, I love to caveat these because I'm one of those. If Jaime Hawkeyes is out, I think UCLA scoring takes a hit. Like
Okay.
I honestly, when I saw him earlier this season, I think they kind of got figured out a little bit. I think they've kind of got themselves back to what I think they thought a lot of people thought they would be this year. I think this really kind of depends on, like I said, if Hawkeyes plays, I think UCLA can win this because they just have so much depth of scoring. I think Tiger Campbell, I think he's one of those. I wish he would be more aggressive offensively, because then I think it would open up his passing game. I think way too many times he tries to be a facilitator to Hawkeyes and to those guards that they have.
He has to, though. He can't shoot. He has zero jump shot.
Yeah,
zero jump shot rating.
But he can take it. He can take it to the rim when he wants to, and that's the biggest thing. His biggest issue he's got is his size. Yeah. So I mean, but the thing is, you have to be able to score from multiple positions, and I think that's going to get him. I think North Carolina wins this one, just because does UCLA have the run to be able to do what they did last year? And I like the way North Carolina is playing this year. The biggest issue I would see is, is their confidence going to be shot a little bit after kind of falling apart late in that Baylor game, where, I mean, that game was closer than it should have been. Like, it shouldn't have got to where it was. The flagrant 2 that I think changed that game. Does that affect the confidence of North Carolina going into this game?
I blame Roy Williams. Overrated. I blame Roy Williams.
This is gold. I love this type of conversation. This is awesome. I don't know. I'm feeling North Carolina a little bit more than UCLA. There's something about UCLA. Offensively they can score, but defensively this doesn't seem like a Cronin team. Like, this does not have the same defensive pressure that I'm used to with him in Cincinnati, where it was like they were suffocating. This is not that type of team. They kind of have to outscore you. So,
all right. So we up in the South now. We got Villanova and surprise, Juwan Howard and the Fighting Wolverines. Like, first he's slapping out an assistant coach, and now he's in the Sweet 16. So I mean, I had Michigan losing in the. I had Michigan losing in the round of 32 to Tennessee, just because I thought Tennessee could shoot, but I should have.
I had Juwan Howard losing his job earlier this year too. So.
Well, you know, I should have taken into account that Rick Barnes, you know, he about like what you talk about with Bill Self. He's allergic to winning in March. So, but I got Villanova. Listen. This could be hard over head. Jay Wright's one of the best basketball coaches I've ever witnessed. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. He teaches more concepts than he does plays, which is like my style of coaching. Like, I want to teach you how to play basketball, not just where anybody can run to a spot, but what do you do when you get to the spot? And he does that so well. Not to mention they got Gillespie, who's a senior and crafty as all get out. I mean, so I think they got too much talent for Michigan, to be honest. And I think if there's a blowout in the Sweet 16, this is my pick for the blowout. I got Villanova over Michigan. What you got, Coach Hess?
Oh man, it's for some weird reason this was the Michigan tip. I thought if they get by Tennessee, can they cause a lot of damage, because it's still an athletic ball club. I think I'm with you. I think Nova wins this just because their guard play is very experienced. But my issue would be is how do they handle some of the size down low with Michigan? How does Villanova handle that? I think the guard play usually wins you games in March. So I think I'm going to go with Villanova, but I think Michigan stays in this one. I don't see this as a blowout. I think this is a couple possession game at the max.
I got you, Jeff, the stat guy. What you got, man? You like me? You like that guard play, man? What's up?
Definitely going Nova. Love Jay Wright and what he can do in the tournament. They got the senior leader in Gillespie, who is a walking 20-piece. So, I mean, they got the guards. And to answer Coach Hess's point, hey, when you have good guard play, don't be surprised if we start to see a little bit of three-quarter court, full-court pressure out of Nova. Anytime you put some pressure on the ball, it's a lot harder to find the bigs. And so I definitely think that we're going to see more advanced, maybe the type of defense we saw from a couple years ago with Nova when they went on their tourney run of a lot more full court and three-quarter court, picking up, doing some trapping and stuff, kind of forcing the issue and forcing Michigan to play at their tempo.
That's right, man. And Jeff knows that what my philosophy is. I don't care if it's youth, basketball, high school, college, pro, whatever. If you got good guard play, you got you a team. Like, and this ain't nothing new to Coach Wright, being the smallest guys on the court. So we'll see how that play out. Kevo, what you got, man?
We've had this conversation before. If I could have my pick and his name is not Coach K and I gotta have a head coach, it's Jay Wright. It's Jay Wright all day long and twice on Sunday. I think he's a basketball savant. I agree. I think guard play is the key. You can find tall dudes everywhere that can stand there and hit layups, man. To find a talented guard, they're not a dime a dozen. So Villanova again has great guard play. They've got great experience. They got great leadership. I think this is going to be one of those situations. I'm not sure if it's going to be a blowout. I think this will be, I'll say, a comfortable win for Nova. But I think Jay Wright's going to put on a basketball class for Juwan Howard. Juwan Howard's a great player, man. But it's different when you got to stand on the sidelines and you can't affect it. You got to affect the game that way. I think Jay Wright's going to put on a clinic for his boys. And like you said, he teaches concepts. You can teach anybody to run to a spot, like you said, man. You said it perfectly. You can teach anybody to run to a spot, but once you get there, man, you teach a man to fish, he can feed himself forever. So if you teaching concepts, you teaching them to fish versus just giving a man a fish. So I think this one's Nova all day, and it's comfortable.
Bet the other one in the South is involves the team that I picked to win it all, and that's Arizona versus Houston, who I actually really like. I kind of wish Houston would have been in a different bracket, so maybe I could have seen this later on, maybe the Elite Eight, not even the Elite Eight, but like the Final Four even. I like Houston. They got the guy White. I like him. They play good as a team. They play really good defense. But I just think Arizona is way too loaded, man. I think it's going to be a close one, but just like how Arizona pulled it out over TCU, I think TCU, definitely caught me by surprise. They vastly talented, but I think Arizona's just got everything you need in a team. They got guard play, they got bigs. Like, what do they got, Jeff? Like 2 or 3 7-footers.
Yeah, I mean, they got 3 7-footers, 2 of which can run the floor with the best. They got elite scorer. They got a true facilitating guard. Like,
They got it all. I'm not saying Houston can't win. I think it will be a close game, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Zona. Got to stick with them. That's my national champion right now. So, Kevo, who you got in this one, man? I think you got Houston in the Final Four, don't you?
Yeah. So this is the first matchup that we've covered that I actually picked both teams correctly. I'll say this. All right, this is the other night when Arizona played TCU was the first time I really sat down all season and intently watched Zona play. I can see why y'all fell in love. All right, it's very easy to fall in love with that team, but I saw a lot of things. If they play a team that plays hard, they will struggle. Okay. TCU gave a lot of effort. I shouldn't say struggle. I would say they're gonna have some competition. I gotta roll with Houston. If I could do it over, I might do it a little differently, but we're here now, so go Cougs.
Coach S, what you got, man? Zona and Houston, to me, 2 of the best teams in the tournament.
I completely agree with you. Like, if you had asked me 6 weeks ago who I said would have been my top tip to win the national championship, I'd have said Arizona. But they had that little run where they were kind of a little iffy. So I'm very interested to see how they handle this, because again, it's Houston is, and I actually, like you, Kev, I had this matchup. I had Houston versus Arizona here. I have Arizona winning this, but I think Houston's going to give Arizona headaches. Like, they may not be the same athletically, but the biggest thing that you got to look at is that with Arizona it's like a little bit of everything. Like, they're scary deep when it comes to height and size. They're scary deep with their guard play, and they run and they run and they run. They don't slow down. Like, the one thing I gotta give Tommy Lloyd a lot of credit, that the former Gonzaga assistant coach, who's now the Arizona head coach, is that he kind of brought that run and gun system that he learned under Mark Few with him to Arizona, and it has fit perfectly. He's got the size to be able to run. He's got really athletic bigs. This is going to be a fun game because you've got two teams that are just going to get after it. And can Houston keep Arizona from scoring? And can Houston score enough to keep that transition game that Arizona likes to play off of that? That's the biggest thing, especially when you play a run and gun team, is can you score, make them take the ball out of the net and have to run, get the ball up the floor? And then, as you said, with the Villanova game, then can Houston start pressing and start making this team have to use up clock and now have to become a half-court game? I think Arizona's got a little bit too much, but this is going to be one of the games of this Sweet 16 round because you've got two teams that I agree that, honestly, it's sad to see Houston as a 5 because I think this could be an Elite 8 Final 4 matchup. That's how good these two teams are.
Yep. Jeff, what you got, man? I know you got Zona going, what you thinking about the game?
Zona's my national champion. UAB let me down in the first round, so Arizona's going to clean up my mess. I've not fallen in love with Houston. I do think this is going to be a good game. I think with the style of play, I think that we could be in for 80 type of game, which is just music to my soul. So I'm super excited for it. This is definitely the game I'm most excited to watch, but I haven't bought into Houston. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. Go Zona.
So let me ask you this, just to touch back on the Houston UAB matchup. So I think when we had our preview show, me, Kev, and KB all picked Houston. Tell me what you saw out of Houston and UAB to make you pick UAB.
You know, I knew Houston got up and down. I honestly thought, watching UAB leading up to the tournament, I thought UAB was going to be able to score with them. I thought the game would be tight in the second half, two teams that can score, team that probably shouldn't be there, and I thought that they were going to hit enough shots to win. And instead, they got ran out the gym early, and that was that.
All right, we'll get back to one of your other upset.
I can't believe I gotta hear that. Jeff, you're disqualified just based off of that one pick in of itself. You out of here.
Listen, we're watching the game, so that one came on Friday, right, Jeff?
Yeah, but it came on after the game that ended my soul on Friday.
So Coach S, Jeff comes over, we're watching the tourney all day Friday, and he put lots of stock. For what reason? Me and Kev are still trying to figure out why he counted emotional. Yes, he put a lot of emotional deposit into Chattanooga beating Illinois. And so when Chattanooga lost to Illinois, they led for the whole game except for the last 47 seconds. Jeff, I'm talking about I could physically see he was done. So he couldn't even root for UAB when they was playing Houston.
They led by all for 35 seconds. That was gut-wrenching. And then I'm a huge South Carolina fan, and maybe I just had that permission where I knew it was coming, because then we go out and we hired Chattanooga's coach Lamont Paris. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe I knew that was coming, and that's why I emotionally invested in him. But
like when we watching the Houston UAB game, he was like, I don't know, man. Like he wasn't even really focused on the game like he normally. I'm like, man, you gotta.
He was just there.
I'm like, man, you gotta let that Chattanooga thing go, man.
The lights was on, but nobody was home, right?
That's crazy. The funny thing is that I think he wasn't the only one. I know there was somebody during the coverage when they first put the bracket out that was talking like that, and I'm like, I liked the mocks. I just wasn't sure if they were going to have enough. Like that was one I did think about. Like I honestly did, but I just wasn't super confident with. But I mean, he wasn't the only one. I'll give Jeff that he wasn't the only one. I know a few people that got on kind of the mocks train a little bit. So I don't like laughing, but that does.
No, but I didn't just pick it, man. I fully invested in
he
that
was
thing.
He was selling it on Friday too. We made our picks. We made our picks all week. You know, everybody, we turned in our tournament bracket, in your bracket and in our bracket and challenge. And he started trying to sell me and Kevo all week on how Chattanooga and UAB and South Dakota State. But he put the most emotional effort into Chattanooga. He had Chattanooga going to beating UAB in the third round of 32, and Chattanooga going to the Sweet 16. I'm like, bro, you put way too much into this. Like he was almost like, don't talk to me. That's the aura he gave on Friday night. Like, don't talk to me the rest of the night.
You could tell. Listen, I turned it on because I think I got home from work and I turned that game on and it was close. And it was close at the end. And the first thought, I swear, the first thought that went through my head was, dear God, Jeff can't be right about this one. That's great. We can't. I was like, we can't let Jeff win this one. I don't care if he wins the year, but he can't win this one.
That's hilarious.
Listen, if Jeff had been at his house and not mine, the TV probably would have been broke. I'm just gonna.
Here, can I tell you something? I'll tell you something. I'll make Jeff feel a little bit better because I don't know if Coach I has told you this, but I run the Sideline Sports Network Iowa page, and when Iowa lost to Richmond, I cannot tell you how many of the Sideline Sports guys were giving me crap for that loss, and I kept going and I kept telling them, I said, I understand Iowa makes a run and a lot of people kind of jumped on the Iowa bandwagon, but legitimately that's Iowa this year. They were so inconsistent. They'd have great games. So I mean, I can't tell you how much this whole state, like a lot of the Iowa fans, that game ended against Richmond on Thursday and it was dead. Like, I cannot tell you how many people were like, I mean, I had people tweeting me like the season was a waste because they lost in the first round. I'm like, we won the Big Ten title. This was supposed to be a down year. And I'm like, so many people put so much into this. And I'm just like, all due respect, this was supposed to be a down year. We lose Luka Garza. You lose a transfer in Jake Nunji. You also lose Wieskamp to the NBA. I mean, legitimately, this Iowa team overperformed compared to what they probably should have. And then it was like, and I was with you, Jeff. I had South Dakota State being Providence because I thought that run and gun style was going to catch Providence by surprise, and it just did not. Like, there's when that's one of those, if threes don't hit, it causes that system to look really, really bad because if you can't hit
and it looks really, really bad.
Exactly. And that's the point is you miss threes, it hurts you. It's kind of like the hurry up offense in football. Like if you go 3 and out, it's not that impressive to run a fast paced offense if you go 3 and out. So and that's kind of basically the equivalent to it. So you get captured in these great small schools that you're like, this is this great story and I want them to go far. And then it's like one thing doesn't go right. And that's the tournament. So I feel you there, Jeff. I understand that.
We watched it, like I said earlier, we watched a lot of games on ESPN3. Those games most, casual fans are not watching. And Richmond was one of those teams, which is why I was like, I thought Iowa was good, but I'm kind of like you, Coach S. I knew they had lost a lot from the last year. I felt like they looked up and got into the Big Ten championship. Not to say they wasn't better than Purdue on that day, because of course they was, but I'm like, Richmond coming to play basketball, and I watched Richmond. I'm like, this is a bad matchup for Iowa. So I actually picked Richmond to beat Iowa.
Honestly, if they don't shoot as horribly as they did, same thing with San Diego State. They don't shoot as horribly as they did. They probably win that game, but it's when they shoot 3 for 29, not so good. So that really killed them because that opens up their game. That opens up the inside game for Murray, for both the Murray twins and for Racha. But the problem is when you're not hitting your threes, they can sag back and take Keegan Murray away, and that changes everything. So
that's right. So now we're on to the West, the last region, where this is the region, the only region that went chalk. We got 1 versus 4, and we got 2 versus 3. It's exactly, I had UConn right here instead of Arkansas. UConn kind of fell victim to something one of us said earlier tonight, where they didn't take New Mexico State seriously, and I could tell in the first half it was almost like they was just kind of going through the motions. It's like one of those things like, oh, we played a lot of good teams in the season, and now it's New Mexico State. We can just cruise. New Mexico State had a different mindset. So I got Gonzaga over Arkansas, which would have been UConn, but I still think Gonzaga just has too much for Arkansas. Gonzaga's a full team. I think Chet can be, like, sometimes on defense he can be a help if he's helping out, but sometimes if the post player really has post moves, he can kind of be a liability because of his weight, and the guys kind of push him around. But I think top to bottom, Gonzaga is just too much for Arkansas. Um, I like Eric Musselman as a coach. I like his emotions, but I don't think he's on Mark Few's level. So I'm giving it to Gonzaga here to win comfortably. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout, but I don't think they're gonna have to worry about it at the end. So what you got there, Jeff?
For me, I watched that UConn game too, and they were only down by like 4 or 5, but it's one of those games where you look at the scoreboard, it might say 4 or 5, but you can just tell from the atmosphere of the players on the court, it felt like they were down 15. Almost just kind of like they didn't want to be there, which seemed weird. So I actually had UConn beating Arkansas myself. Look, Arkansas's there. I'm an SEC boy. I'm a homer, and I absolutely hate Gonzaga. So go
There
Arky.
it is. I knew it was coming.
There it is.
I knew it was coming.
The Gonzaga Bulldog, hey baby. What you got there, Kevo?
So this is my flagship side of the bracket here, my region. The only game I did not pick correctly in this region thus far was the New Mexico State over UConn upset. As I kind of briefly went over earlier last week when we did the show, I have fallen head over heels in love with Arkansas. I'm ready to wipe them up. I am head over heels. I'm all in. I'm all in on the Razorbacks this year. I think, look, athletic teams give Gonzaga issues, especially athletic guards. And I think JD Notae is one of the best guards playing right now in March.
Okay.
I think Arkansas gives them issues. I think it's going to be a very, very, very close game. But Arkansas has had quite a few of those this year, and they've come out on top in a good deal of them. I think Arkansas can get the dub this year, and Eric Musselman goes farther than he's ever gone before. So,
All right.
Yeah, I think Arkansas gets the dub.
We got 2 Arkansas and a Gonzaga for me, and I say Coach S for last because outside of Iowa, he is a Gonzaga guy. So what's going on? We know you're going to pick Gonzaga, but tell us why.
Okay, so this is funny. I'm the only one on this thing that actually tipped the New Mexico State versus UConn one because I think New Mexico State, they always have an upset in them. So that was one I actually tipped that one, which is kind of crazy. This bracket, I was surprised. I didn't miss too many in this region. I had all 4 going kind of the way they did. I think a lot of people are going to go, well, look at the Memphis game. A super athletic team gave Gonzaga headaches. Honestly, I'll say this: when Gonzaga has problems, it's not with guards, it's with physical forwards and big men. Because Drew Timme is probably as offensively gifted as the guy is, and I'll give it to him. He is some of the best footwork in the entire nation. When you get a big athletic guard a big athletic forward that's got to guard him or play against him, that's when Gonzaga has problems because their guards have to make up for his lack there. So my issue is
big man down low,
and that's kind of the thing. But then I'll also go on you, Coach I, is that yes, he doesn't have the size, but his 7'4" wingspan caused Memphis a lot of issues that you would have thought wouldn't have because their big man had huge weight advantage on him. But how many blocks did he get because they chest bump him and then they try to turn and his arm would somehow go gadget and find a way to block it. So I don't know if he's as much a liability. His liability is he jumps for a 7'1" guy. I was screaming at the television in the game against Memphis, stay on your feet. You're 7'1" with a 7'4" wingspan. Just stand up and put your hand in the air. They got to shoot 10 feet to get it over you, dude. Don't jump. So the biggest thing I would say for Arkansas to win this game is they got to get either Timme or Holmgren into foul trouble because once you get to Anton Watson, the offensive abilities are not as strong. Now, Watson can take you off the dribble. Timme is okay on the dribble, but not great. Holmgren can take you on the dribble. He can shoot the 3. His biggest thing is he's got to outmove you because he doesn't have the physicality. But he's also 7'1" with a 7'4" wingspan. It's hard to block his shot. So he's going to be a pain in the rear end. They're going to run. How does Arkansas's transition defense go? Because if they don't get back, Nebhart is going to take 2 dribbles. He's going to heave it up to Timme, layup every time. That's what started getting Memphis in the second half. I think Arkansas is in this game. I think can they physically beat up the forward line and the guards? That's the biggest thing that Arkansas needs to do to win this. If they don't, Gonzaga will score, and they will score a lot. Most teams can't stop them. That's, like I said, that's how Baylor beat them last year. They beat them up. They had to physically beat them because offensively it was even. They had to have that special little thing. This, as a Gonzaga fan, this is kind of like Memphis. This is a scary matchup, no matter who they got, whether it was UConn or whether it was Arkansas, because you're starting to get the cream of the crop teams. This is where the argument that everybody says, well, they'll fade out because of their conference. We'll see. We'll really see. Do I think Arkansas's got a chance as a Gonzaga fan? Yes, I think Arkansas is a dangerous team. They've beaten some teams that are just as good as them. I think it's going to come down. Honestly, my person that's going to make or break this is Andrew Nebhart, their guard, because if he can stay calm and not turn the ball over and can score to open up the floor for Strawweather and for some of their guards like Rasir Bolton, I think they can score enough. They can beat Arkansas, but I think this is going to be one dandy of a game. And this is going to show you, is Gonzaga for real this year or not? If they drop out of this one, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I'm a diehard Gonzaga fan, but I'll honestly say it. This is a scary matchup for Gonzaga. This is one of the toughest 4 seeds they've gotten in the entire run that they've had over these last 5 or 6 years.
Like I said, I got Gonzaga winning, but one thing I will say about Arkansas is used to playing against height because Auburn does have those 2 7-footers. One who is like of the Chet mold, where he can shoot that, he can stroke that 3. He's a little bit thicker than Chet, but I don't know if his handles are as good as Chet. But they're used to playing those 7-footers, so we'll see how this one shake out. But the last Sweet 16 game we'll talk about is Mr. Coach K versus those Red Raiders. Kevo has Coach K making this storybook ending. And so far, so good. I mean, even to the point where against Michigan State, I'm going to be honest, I had Duke winning. But I'm like, I was worried in the last 4 minutes. I'm like, what is really going on? But the boy, what's the point guard name, Kevo?
Keels or Jeremy Roach?
Roach. I'm not a big Roach fan. I think his jump shot needs a lot of work. But I've
never been a big Jeremy Roach fan, to be honest with you.
But he could not be stopped the other night against Michigan State for some reason. He was getting where he wanted, when he wanted. So Duke showed me a lot. I think Texas Tech, though, I don't know, man. I just like Texas Tech. I like that they got a lot of offense. And Duke doesn't have a shooter. And this deep in the tournament, man, you got to have a shooter. The shooter is hurt. Number 21, I forget what his name is, but he's hurt. So unless he's suiting up against Texas Tech, I don't know, man. This could get out of hand.
AJ, go ahead. AJ Griffin's going to suit up. I can promise you that. He'll be in uniform. Now, whether he plays, how much he plays, I think that's left to be seen. Look, I think one of the biggest decisions that gets made in this game, when it comes to this game, is going to be made before tip-off. And that is if Jeremy Roach starts or if Trevor Keels starts. If Trevor Keels starts, it takes the pressure off of Jeremy Roach because Jeremy Roach knows that he's coming off the bench. When he comes off the bench, he has a lot more offensive success. It's almost like he's playing with a get-out-of-jail-free card. He can run, he can pass, he can shoot, he can do everything he wants to, and it's, there's no pressure. I'm not the starter. I'm coming off the bench. Trevor Keels, he played well at the beginning of the season. It's kind of tailed off, especially after the injury. I don't think he's 100%. I think anybody that says that he's 100% is lying to you. I don't think the ankle's quite right or the knee's quite right.
Yep.
Something's a little off. But if Trevor Keels gets the start, it's like he can handle that pressure. He can handle that moment of feeling that pressure. Whereas Jeremy Roach, if he comes in, man, it's like he poops the bed because he can't handle that pressure of being the starting point guard for Duke University in a Sweet 16 game. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest decisions. Texas Tech scares me. They do. They play good basketball. One thing y'all didn't touch on, they play really good defense, man. They pressure hard. They make you work. They make you work for everything you get. Duke does have a shooter. Duke has a couple shooters. It's are they on when the lights come on? Are they on? Now Paolo Banchero can shoot.
Mr. Inconsistency in the second half of the season, man.
he's Mr. Harry Houdini, man. He disappears and when he comes back, you don't even know it.
When he plays, he's one of the best in the nation. But
when he plays, he is the best in the nation. Other than, and now that I've seen that cat from
Arizona,
yeah, he the number one pick. Look, everything in my body tells me that if I was picking this game and I didn't know, if you just made me pick two teams, I didn't know who they were and I was just picking, I'd pick Texas Tech in this one. But man, there's something about the magic. It's the magic of March. It's the magic of the moment.
That's why they call it March Madness. That's why they call it March Madness.
It's gonna be madness. So. Duke gets the dub. We live to fight another day.
Jeff, what you got, man?
I got Duke going to my championship. So I'm sticking with it. Got them rolling through. I do think it's a good game. I do like Texas Tech's defense. What I saw from them in the Big 12 tournament and so far in the NCAA tournament, I'm very interested to see how it translates against Duke. Although obviously, what can Pablo do? But we'll see. I think it's going to be a good game. I like Duke kind of in like that 7 to 10 range, maybe a little closer than that, and hit some free throws late or whatever. But I see Duke pulling this thing out. I think they'll kind of lead it wire to wire. Nothing crazy or anything, but definitely like Duke.
One thing about Texas Tech that I think a lot of people aren't touching on. So Texas Tech, this roster for the most part, and everybody gives them credit, they're good offensively. There's no real obvious weaknesses. They're good in all facets of the game. This roster was compiled by Chris Beard. Chris Beard ain't there no more. Chris Beard's in Austin. So I think that's one thing that people got to remember. This is a good roster. Chris Beard compiled this roster. Chris Beard coached this roster. So I think that's one thing that people got to remember. But still, that's not taking anything away. They are a very good team. They're a well-rounded team. But yeah, I think that's one thing that people don't really mention is that the guy who the caveat or the catalyst for all this isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I get that. Coach Hess, what you got, man?
I actually love that point. I love that point that Chris Beard is gone. But the other thing you could also come to is that they kind of rallied around because Chris Beard left them. So you could almost say that they can kind of rally around that isn't the new coach that they just came in, one of their assistant coaches who hadn't had a lot. And you could kind of see after that last game, they really did rally around their coach a little bit. So I'm one of those, I look at it when I was doing my brackets, and again, I had this matchup and I thought this was going to be interesting is can the young Duke team handle the pressure that Texas Tech is going to bring? This is going to be something that's going to be really interesting. And again, and the lights are going to be bright now because I think a little bit the Coach K going out on top type of mantra, I think may add a little bit more pressure to this young team that we'll have to see how they handle it. Like
we've seen that pressure firsthand in the ACC and ACC.
But the lights are going to get brighter as we start getting further on in the tournament. It's going to be talked more. So the biggest thing is that it's kind of like that Iowa State Miami game. I'm like the first 10 minutes are going to be interesting because can Texas Tech get this team thinking? Because if they get them thinking with a freshman team, they're going to not react and they're not going to play as well. I think I agree with you. Pablo Banchero, it's hard to argue, is not one of the best players in this entire country. But I agree with you. Unfortunately, he's been inconsistent and he is kind of that stabilizing force for this team. So we'll really have to see. I don't know. I've got Texas Tech in this one because I think it's you have the superstar team with the great story, and then you've got kind of this Texas Tech team that nobody's talking to. People like them, but nobody's talking about them going deeper than this. Like a lot of people are like, this is where the story, but this is where Texas Tech ends. Like a lot of people have Duke in this one. I'm interested to see how Texas Tech handles that because they can come in with the chip on their shoulder. They know and then the other thing is this game's going to be far out west. How does Duke Nation show up? How does the fan base, the split go? Because I think in some of these NCAA tournament games, sometimes the fan bases, I think, can make it. If you've got the majority of the people, you can really flip a game, especially on just neutral court sites. So I'm
The
very
Dookie's
interested
going
to
to show
see.
up definitely. Dookie's
Oh yeah, the
definitely
Dookie show up. I
Dookie's
remember the
show
game
up.
in Vegas between Gonzaga and Duke, and it was 50-50, which you would think in Vegas Gonzaga would have a much bigger. Duke people are everywhere,
Dookie
so
show up.
I think it'll be pretty even when it comes to the fan distribution. But like I said, my worry for this Duke team is, will the pressure of sending Coach K out on top get to them as more and more of these rounds keep going on a little bit further? Again, Duke is an incredibly talented team. Like, they were the most dangerous team that I saw in this bracket for Gonzaga when it came to it. So I'm interested to see how this one goes. This one I'm going to keep an eye on big time, not just because this is potentially who Gonzaga is going to play in the final, but might be one of the best matchups purely between two teams in this round, because you've got two really good teams facing off, maybe even a little bit earlier than some people would want.
Listen,
I would
man.
say,
Go ahead, Kev.
go ahead, Coach. I
Okay.
was going to say, I think all the potential matchups for Duke from this point forward, no matter who it is, whether it's Gonzaga, whether it's Arkansas, they all scare me. They all scare me a lot. I think it's clear now. I think the question's already been answered. The Coach K going out on top thing has hurt Duke all year long. It has.
Yep.
It's a ton of pressure. They handled it well. I don't know if they just didn't realize how big of a stage it was truly going to be the first 10 games of the season when they played so well, except for against Ohio State, which they still played well. They just collapsed at the end. I don't know if they just didn't realize it, and then after 10 games, they're like, oh, man, everybody's watching us every single night. The pressure's really gotten to them, and then when they play these teams, like you said, when they play teams that want to pressure, the teams that initially come to mind, the first two that come to mind for me when I think of Duke playing teams that want to pressure, Florida State and Miami. And what happened?
Yep.
Duke didn't play well. Guard play wasn't there. There was a lot of pressure. Jeremy Roach got exposed. Trevor Keels didn't play well. Paolo Banchero disappeared. We didn't know where he was. The driving force behind those teams those games that kept Duke in it so well was Mark Williams. So
Yep.
Mark Williams is going to have a big game every single game from here on out. Trevor Keels is going to have to play well, and Paolo can't disappear. Those
true.
are the keys right there.
Mm-hmm.
And just to reference that pressure, I think it goes back to something Coach Hess said either when we was off camera or at the beginning about those freshman team that Calipari had. You know, when you got like a senior laden team or upperclassman laden team, and you've been with this coach 3-4 years, you like, it's almost like one of them players only mean like, yo, man, we can't let coach go out like this. Like we gotta do something. Like even if we ain't better than like we gotta find a way to win this for coach. And these freshmen don't know nothing about that. They just like NBA the next stop. So I think we've seen twice now, and they're about to get their third shot against Texas Tech where they've struck out. North Carolina on senior night in Cameron. Like losing to North Carolina, like, and not just losing, getting dogged. Like you don't do that on Coach K's last time on his own court. And
I don't
then
know
against
what you're talking about, Coach. I don't know what you're talking about.
and then against Virginia Tech, I mean, yeah, look, me and Jeff watched Virginia Tech barely beat Clemson, where the guy comes down and he's in his bag. He goes behind the back, hits the casual three as if the clock wasn't running out. Shouldn't even been there. And then they get done in by Virginia Tech, who controlled the game. It's like two chances they had to send Coach K out with something, and they failed. And now, here it is. That's added pressure. They're like, okay, now we go home this time. There's no more games. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see.
Let me ask you a question, Coach. All right. So, basketball players and their persona probably better than a lot of people that I know. Do you think, knowing everything we know, I mean, we got the brotherhood and all that stuff matters, and there's alums coming out of the woodwork, especially this year, but there's always, guys like Kyrie and Jason Tatum and Christian Laettner and dudes that come in the locker room and give speeches and stuff before games, after practices and stuff like that. But all in all, it's still, they're a bunch of freshmen. They're the team. Guys like Kyrie and Jason Tatum aren't there night in and night out,
That's
day
true.
in and day out, and workouts and stuff. Do you think this team really cares that it's Mike Krzyzewski's last year? Or do you think the vast majority, especially the freshmen, do you think they're just like, hey, we're here for the year because we got to be, and then we try to bounce to the league?
I think in the beginning they may have cared. I don't know. I think sometimes I think they started caring more towards the end, and that's when I think the pressure kind of got to them. I think they was like
when they realized that this was
I think when they first got there, you think like, especially Paolo, like Paolo they was already talking about him being the number one pick, before they even played the game. So he's like, yeah, I mean, hey, I'm playing for the famed Coach K. Cool. I get to play in Cameron Indoor, one of the best, college, if not all of basketball gyms in the nation, and it's cool. But hey, man, one semester pretty much, and I'm out of here. But then as the season went on, they kept hearing about it. Coach K goes to NC State for the last time, and he goes here for the last time. And they're honoring Coach K, and they're getting to witness all of this stuff. First, it was just talk. It's just like, okay, yeah, Coach K's going out. I see it. But then they seeing it. And then it's like, not for nothing, when they played North Carolina, the last game of the season.
Hey, when you put 40 dudes out there, that's why they lost the game. They lost the game right there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as if this wasn't enough pressure. Then you bring back the best of the best that's played at Duke to watch them firsthand. It's like, now you looking at these dudes and you like, oh man, I can't have no bad game today. Now they get out there, and this is what I worry about them against Texas Tech. I worry about them. This is what I've seen from Duke in their 6 losses. When teams keep up with them athletically and basketball, like just in the game, they start everybody tries to be the guy they were in high school. That's not going to win in the Sweet 16. You got to play team basketball. Yeah, you can't go out here that's what I think.
I'll say this, and I know we can move on, but there were a lot of dudes. I mean, like you said, it was a
that's pressure, bro.
That's a ton of pressure. But you know who I think put the most pressure on them? Danny Ainge. Why? Because he's a GM for a professional basketball team, and I think that
could have been
dudes like that being there, not just like, yeah, man, his jersey's hanging in the rafters. Like, yeah, this guy was special back in the day. I can pull him up and watch him on YouTube. Like guys there were some dudes in the audience that are going to be making decisions on these dudes' careers in 4 months.
Yeah.
So I think part of that hurt, but yeah, I think definitely the legacy and the pressure of this moment. I will say maybe too big for some of these cats.
I can see that. Now that we've wrapped up the Sweet Six, go ahead, Cam.
But real quick, I was going to say, watching Duke this year, they I felt at times they played tight because of that, right? They were almost playing tight.
As the season went on, yeah.
As the season went on, because they didn't, like when you experience something last, you almost don't want to let it down. Now they don't have to. There's nothing else after this. They played tight in the ACC championship. They came out a little tight against North Carolina. There's more after that. There's no tomorrow if you don't win. It's win or go home at this point. So I don't think we'll see some of that tight play that we've seen because there's nothing else. There's no more honoring Coach K. There's no more games. You just got to play basketball and win. So I think we'll see a more looser Duke team than what we've seen in some of the losses this year because there isn't anything after this. I think that'll help them be a little bit more loose and just play basketball.
It could be, man. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game to say the least. If they come out and play their game and Texas Tech come out and play their game, we could be looking at an overtime thriller. I mean, just to be honest with you, because both of those teams can get it done. So we covered that.
I don't think I can handle that one. I don't think emotionally. I can't handle that. It's going to be like where I can't. I'm one of those people. I can't watch the Duke North Carolina game. I mean, I watch it because I have to. But I don't enjoy it. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Duke North Carolina, you get right." I'm like, bro, no, I don't enjoy that game. I've never
because for you, it doesn't matter. Even when y'all blew them out at Chapel Hill, it's like the margin of the score, the lead can never be big enough. It's like, no, we need more. We need more. It's the same way when I watch Georgia, Florida. Like, we up 27, 3 at halftime football. I'm like, nah, we need some more touchdowns.
Keep pushing.
Like, it's not enough. It's not enough because we know what those type of rivalries do. Speaking of rivalries, we've covered the Sweet 16 in the men's basketball. And listen, man, Coach S, we had this. I had told Jeff I was going to have you on. You was an Iowa guy. Moving over to the women's side, they kind of let me down because they didn't win this last game. Because in Jeff's head and some of his South Carolina friends' head, they've made up this rivalry with Iowa, all because ESPN said the Iowa Star should be the national player of
But
the year.
Isaiah, they said that during the middle of a South Carolina game while we were giving somebody that look. Talk about the girls on the court.
But all because listen, hold coach, all because the commentator made a mistake or not a mistake. Mentioned you just take it out on the whole Iowa program.
Yeah, they can all catch the smoke.
Well, here, time out one second. Okay, I'm gonna agree with Jeff. Like one of my biggest pet peeves is when announcers are talking about something that has nothing to do with the game that's in front of them. That annoys the living heck out of me. So I completely understand you, Jeff. I really, really do. And to be completely honest with you, like I've been watching Caitlin Clark this entire season. The girl is fantastic. But I honestly, I think her numbers are a little bit bloated because she's not on as talented a team as, say, South Carolina is. I mean, South Carolina is most likely going to win the national championship this year. I have a hard time not seeing them not do that. The only team I think that could be dangerous to them is now with UConn and getting Paige Beckers back. That could be a team that could potentially give you some struggles because Caitlin Clark in Iowa and funny part about it is, I don't know if you guys paid attention to this, they lost to Creighton, and the girl that hit the game-winning shot was an Iowa transfer.
Iowa. Mm-hmm.
No, she's an Iowa transfer. She played at Iowa last year, and Lisa
she was at Iowa last year.
Yeah, and she transferred to Creighton, and I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me, Coach Luder! You let her get away."
And so Jeff was looking forward. Jeff was looking forward to the possible matchup between Iowa and South Carolina.
There were people in Iowa that wanted to see. They wanted to see it because they wanted to see that particular matchup. And I just this Iowa team, Caitlin Clark is an incredible player, but again, if you look at the overall depth and talent wise, she had less to work with than what South Carolina does. I'm one of those proponent. I don't always agree with it. I'm one of those that I've said this numerous times. The person that wins Player of the Year is the one that's on the winningest team and usually goes the farthest in the NCAA tournament. That's almost always the way it goes. Very rarely does that not happen. Like you have to have a superstar performance in either men's or women's to be able to outwin the fact that most people they lump the team in as much. Yes, if you look at statistically, Caitlin Clark has the best statistics in the entire country. Leads in scoring, leads in assists. But if you look at her team has more losses than South Carolina does. Yeah. So it depends on how you're going to vote. Are you going to vote on the best player? Which again, I'm one of those. Can the best player make up for the fact that they have a weaker team? If you subscribe
that was
to
that, Jeff, that was Jeff's point about Caitlin, how she went scoreless the last 17 minutes. Like
so that was the thing. If it was close and if people hadn't voted yet, personally, I don't think it's close. I think Aaliyah Boston should be unanimous, but that's beside the point. But Caitlin Clark went scoreless the last 16 minutes of the game and scored 1 field goal and 2 free throws early in the third quarter for a total of 4 points in the second half with only a game of 15. And now they were feeding the big girl down low who leads the nation in field goal percentage and who unfortunately missed the layup that would have sent it to overtime. But man, when you're the National Player of the Year candidate, you're supposed to be that girl, and you go for 4 points in the second half. Not in my watch. Can't be my National Player of the Year.
And that's a completely valid argument. But then again, though, that's also you're taking a really tiny sample, though. So and again, everybody to each their own. I have no disagreement that Boston is probably going to win it. I have no argument over that at all. But I think in some situation, when you take it down to one game, and that's the reason why she shouldn't. It's a little.
That was my point earlier. Everybody has a bad game.
She wasn't going to win it before that. That was just a selling point.
Yeah. Well, I don't think she was ever going to win it. That's just not that I don't think.
And I agree. Yeah, I completely agree.
Think she's ever going to win it.
I'll tell you this: Iowa Twitter's going to lose their minds when Caitlin Clark doesn't win the National Player of the Year because they did the same thing. They did the same thing a couple of years ago when Luka Garza lost it to Obi Toppin. They were losing their minds, and it took me a while to kind of explain to them. I said, "You don't understand. You can't." you can put up tons and tons and tons and tons of points, but the National Player of the Year is going to have a little bit of how good was their team. If their team doesn't go very far, that is going to knock you a little bit. Now, if you ask most people on my Iowa Twitter, Caitlin Clark didn't score a lot in that fourth quarter because she was getting fouled every time. Do I agree with that? No. I think that was really good defense. They were up. Caitlin Clark did not take the body contact well and started complaining to the referees. That's my personal opinion. I'm kind of a minority in that particular statement. If you ask most people up here, anytime Caitlin Clark gets touched with the tiniest little touch, it's a foul for many people up here in Iowa. That's
LeBron James.
I know.
Come on, hold on. We're not going to spew any LBJ hate tonight.
But no. The way I read on Iowa Twitter, and again, that's a cesspool sometimes, so I don't always like going there. But again, I legitimately, Jeff, I think Boston wins it. I think Boston wins it relatively easily. I think it's one of those where it's like, honestly, I'm worried Caitlin Clark goes pro, which really kind of takes a lot of wind out of the sails of this Iowa team that honestly they'll have most of their people back next year. I think they're going to be even better next year. I want to see Clark back, but it's hard to argue that she is not super talented. She could go to the league and have a heck of a career.
I think Jeff's biggest thing is that they mentioned her during the South Carolina game, and the fact that she might get some of the votes. I'm like, bro, just because Aaliyah Boston ain't unanimous doesn't mean that she's not. But here's
my thing, and I'm a true hater. I was pulling for them against Creighton. I want them to beat Creighton because I want South Carolina to 40-piece them and prove once and for all who the team was. So but
that's the thing. You made it a team thing, and it wasn't a team thing. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't a team thing.
Here's the other thing, Jeff. You have one little problem with that. If Iowa wins, you may not even see them because they got to go play Iowa State, who Iowa State beat them earlier in the season. So you still may not have seen Iowa in the Elite Eight. You still may you may get Iowa State, and Iowa State's no slough. They're probably, again, they're not as talented as South Carolina. South Carolina's probably going to win. But I'm going to tell you, it's like you're pipe dreaming a tiny bit because I was a little worried because Iowa State was on our side of the bracket for that.
That's what I was trying.
That was a whole other thing. So. I was shocked they did that to Iowa. I couldn't believe they put Iowa State and Iowa on the same side to where they could meet in the Sweet 16.
There were a lot of people in Iowa that wanted it to happen, even if it was going to be out, and even if it was, I think it was Greenwood is the bracket location. Greensboro. But I told a lot of people, I said, if Iowa and Iowa State get there, I said Greensboro is going to get infested with Iowa people because they're going to go because maybe the men's teams at the time when I said this, I thought both men's teams were going to be out because Iowa had already lost and Iowa State still had to play LSU later that night. Little did I know that Iowa State's men was going to get to the Sweet 16. But like I said, I have no issue with your issue. My issue is you're taking it out on a young lady that I think is super, super talented. But she's
Coach S. He's taking it out on the whole team, and I'm like, hold on, Jeff. Let's say Iowa did make it, and play South Carolina in the Elite Eight is what
we 30-piece them.
Okay, and you 30-piece them. Listen, that alone does not prove that Aaliyah Boston is better. That proves that South Carolina is better than Iowa. Team. That's exactly. So you were going in about the whole time anyway. Well, South Carolina's a better team. South Carolina's a better team.
He wasn't going for 40 against us. But she wasn't going for 40 against us.
Because you have like 10 5-stars. Like, bro, just because he don't go, that's like saying, oh, well, the dude didn't rush for 100 against Georgia. We had like an all-time good front seven. What does that mean? That doesn't mean he's not a good running back.
He does have a good point there, Coach Jeff. He does have a really good point. Like if you look at Iowa,
South Carolina's
that list. There's one 5-star player, and that's Caitlin Clark, and that we were lucky to get her because
that's what I'm saying.
The great schools we're going to get. We're
like
going
y'all beating them by 40 doesn't prove that Aaliyah Boston is better than Caitlin Clark.
And all due respect, Jeff, if you really look at it, one of the things I got to give the women's tournament this year, and I love it, is that there are more upsets because the talent is getting spread
more than ever.
I mean, this is it. I mean, think about it. 10 years ago, you could almost get a women's bracket, put all 4 number 1 seeds there, and you wouldn't be taking much of a risk because it almost always happened. So it's like I don't I love that the fact that more talent is getting spread out because I think it's going to make the women's tournament that much more exciting. Like, honestly, I have been much more tuned into the women's tournament than I ever have because I'm starting to see South Dakota's in the Sweet 16. Are you kidding me? South Dakota is
That's
in the
crazy.
Sweet 16 in the
The fact that
women's.
both of their men and women's team made the tourney is impressive to me. So what I want from y'all is pick one player from the men's tournament so far. If the tournament stopped today, who would be the player of the tournament? Kev, who you got?
It's a shame because I don't even know. I can't. Even if I knew his name, I can't pronounce it. It's the kid from Arizona, man. It's Mathurin or whatever. Yeah, he's
number zero.
Bro,
number 4.
I sent y'all a text right when it ended. It said, "Homie's gross."
Yeah,
it's number 0.
It's zero, Jeff. It's zero.
Yeah, I was like, "Homie's gross." He reminds me of Jason Tatum. He's long and athletic, but he can do it all, man.
He can do it all.
He can. I mean, he is a great basketball player. And if I was starting a franchise, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have told you it's Paolo. It's Paolo.
Yeah.
It's Paolo Banchero, no doubt about it. Now, man, it's that dude. Because that dude, I'll tell you right now, in 4 years, he's an all-star. His game translates, man. His game translates, and he bosses up, and he's the best player on the court if he lets you know it.
I'm gonna have to second that vote for Kev. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I can see it.
I think it's Mathurin.
Yeah, but it's zero from Arizona. It's I think he's like they have so many Player of the Year awards. I think he it's like from different publications. He won one of them. I know that, but I'm gonna have to go with him too, man. Dude's super impressive. Like everything Kev just said, man. Dude can do it all. He put Arizona on his back when they was about to lose to TCU. So I'm going with him. Who you got, Jeff?
That's my vote for sure. The cat from Arizona. Just kind of got that killer instinct. Does it all, like you said, puts the team on his back. If they make it, it's going to be because of him.
For sure. Coach S, you're one player so far.
Oh, man. I honestly, I can't pick one because I think it's been a really spread out tournament. You haven't had that one guy that's dominated every game. Like, for me, it's more of I'm just impressed with the team of St. Peter's, like what they've done. Like that's for me. I can't really sit here and pick out one. Like, for me, I'd pin it on St. Peter's just because the ability to do what they did and to be kind of that team that everybody's going to be keeping an eye on in the Sweet 16 game. So, like,
For St. Peter's, don't they have that kid last name Banks or whatever?
Banks or Noble are the two guys that have been there.
They've been balling.
Yeah,
they've been balling. So
yeah, so it's like if I had the individual,
it's the kid with the stash, bro. It's the kid with the
exactly.
stash.
Stash magic, baby.
Oh, I've seen some tweets.
Stash money.
It's like the guy that just beat Kentucky is the guy that was the janitor in like some movie or something. It was absolutely hilarious. Like the one thing, the internet rules sometimes at finding just some of the most crazy things. But like I gotta, like I said, hands down, the St. Peter's story. I gotta give them a little bit. It's like I'm so much a team guy. Like I hate giving individual awards because I think a lot of times individual awards are need to be won.
True.
As a team, like I'm a team person, so I hate just focusing on one. So I'm going to pin it on St. Peter's because just that's an incredible performance. Being another 15 seed to get to the Sweet 16, I'm gonna tip my hat to you guys. I'm hoping they play well against Purdue, but yeah, it'll be fun.
So. It's gonna be rough, yeah. So
what
we'll do,
I got some stats for you from the first round that I wanted to share. My Lady Gamecocks broke 3 records in the first round. Lowest points given up in a first half, 4. Lowest points given up in a single game, 21. And lowest points given up after the first 2 games, 54, beating the old record of 71. Defense wins championships.
There it is. Shout out to Don Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks. We're all based in South Carolina except for Coach Hess, so that's why South Carolina definitely is going to get love from us. We love Don. I like Don Staley. That's the only reason why I like South Carolina doing good is because I love Don Staley. So, I mean, I'm a Georgia Bulldog, so, I mean, I know we can't compete with them, but I like Don Staley. Even though I did pick UConn to win it all. So we'll see how... We'll see how that. What I would love nothing more than the UConn to win the national championship. Jeff been preaching how they gonna take the Natty all year. I would love if UConn beat South Carolina. But look, man, we're gonna come wrap this thing up, man. I want to do this again after the Elite Eight, so we can have something else to talk about. Coach Hess, we love you to come back on, man. We missing our other guy, KB. He's a Duke fan too. He had some prior engagements today, but he should be back with us next time. And Coach Hess, we would love for you to come back, man, and so we can break down the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight.
For you guys to have me, it's been a blast. Jeff, it's great to meet you, sir. Sorry that we had a little bit of drama there, but like I said,
hey man, all love.
It's fun though. I love the discussion.
Please, when Iowa Twitter blows up, when Aaliyah Boston wins National Player of the Year, please make sure you tag me in some posts. I'm all for the smoke on Twitter.
I'll see what I can. I'll definitely see what I can do. I'll have to have Coach I send me your tag so we can follow you on that. I'll send you. There's probably going to be a few doozies. I can already see it now if that does happen, because
the good thing is,
when Luka Garza didn't win it to Obi Toppin the one year, there was some quite interesting responses, and the Dayton fans were quite good at kind of sticking and giving that little rib. So it was quite the fun situation.
I like it because we're all passionate about it, but we like to back it up with knowledge and stats, so we're not just out here Kool-Aid fanning it. One thing I do not like is I won't even, like, sometimes I have to stop myself on social media though. I try not to engage with Kool-Aid fans, because Kool-Aid fans is whatever your team does, they're going to be the best no matter who they are. But I like it because all four of us plus KB, we like to actually have knowledge of why we're making the argument. Jeff can get a little carried away sometimes, but hey, ultimately,
can I give you
ultimately, he does have the stats to back it. That's why he's the stat guy.
I'll give you one quote that a friend of mine told me, and I completely agree with this, and I think it's one of the reasons why I try not to engage as much on Twitter. I said, you cannot make an irrational person think rationally.
It's hard, Coach Hess, because I see some bum tweets out there sometimes, man. I just be wanting to, like, come on, bro. I saw one today for football. I started typing and then clear it out. I was like, no, because I have to think he made this post just to get reactions, and I'm not going to give him a reaction. It's hard to do. Like, he had his spring top 25 football, and he had Utah number 3. He had Ohio State and Bama 1 and 2. He had Utah 3, Arkansas 4, and Baylor 5, and Georgia 6. I'm just going to leave it at that, man. I'm just like, okay, I'm not even going to engage with this, because that's
a Jeff hot take right there, man. That's something Jeff would do.
No, Kevin, you know good and well I'd have South Carolina at number 1. You know, good fly out South Carolina number 1. Disagree with that.
Jeff, you love it though. He did have Clemson. He had Clemson outside the top 15. So that's the only reason why I even seen the tweet, was because the guy I'm friends with on Twitter, that's a Clemson guy, he retweeted it, and it's like Clemson is at least top 6. So I had to say that little piece, man. But yeah, man, fun with the fellas tonight, man. We'll do it again next week. After the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. So stay tuned, people. If you made it this far, that means you are a real basketball hoop head. I appreciate it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. For all my guests on the panel, Coach Hess, Kev the Dookie, Jeff the Stat Guy, we are out of here.
Peace.